RoadKill Church. I'm your host, P.S.Y.K.I.K.O. P.S.Y.K.I.K.O.com. Episode number 9. Thank you guys for listening to RoadKill Church by P.S.Y.K.I.K.O. P.S.Y.K.I.K.O.com. Painting number 1. Arbitrary meditations. Just showing up was more than half the battle. His partner was a prom queen that had lived her whole life with pretty girl privilege. But in time, she learned to do most of the work. The ad campaigns had changed through the years at the agency. He never really had the desire to want to move up the ladder because he'd never bought what the higher-ups were selling. A little more money with a lot more responsibility just wasn't his idea of freedom. Some days, though, at least she was fun to work with and even not too hard on the eyes. And she had a sense of humor most of the time. They'd gotten close to being more than work buddies a few times, but either, or usually both of them, backed off before things got too hot and heavy. Several of the more intense campaigns in the last few months, though, had reignited some of those old feelings he had put on the back burner and pushed down, deep down, multiple times. In the break room, she had told him about how she heard her old dead dog's bark in the background of one of her kids' videos, and how that had messed up her whole day. How could something so small, so innocuous, have that kind of power, that kind of emotional impact? Especially when his canine smile wasn't even in the video. Her story made him think of a few times he'd experienced some similar memories that had been triggered. He even recorded his father's old voice from his phone voicemail introduction and had listened to it many times the past couple of years after he died. Why hadn't anyone else taken an interest back then to try and help him? He was busy trying to help his mom and other family members, but no one, not anyone bothered to help him. Maybe it was because they knew they couldn't. Maybe it was because they really didn't give a damn. Either way, whatever the cause, it would have been nice to have felt a little more compassion in those very dark years after he'd lost one of, if not the best friend he'd ever had in his life. How could you even help the strongest person that you knew? Could you even begin to? With that thought, he gave them a pass. He knew deep down inside that who he really needed to give a pass to was just parts of himself. After lunch, he was doing the final touches on one of the car dealership's new online video ads. It was really stupid, but stupid worked. Stupid got him paid. Stupid got attention. Stupid got people talking and spending. The guy setting himself on fire was always a hit, especially in a gorilla suit wearing an alien mask on a bicycle while he swings a sword at butterflies that are attacking him among all the wonderful shiny new vehicles. The concept really didn't matter. It was all in the execution. As he wrapped up what he had intended to, he made his way out of the office, and he started to contemplate a vision of one of his favorite ASMR YouTubers dying as she spoke the softest of words. Her last purr, a small whimpering gasp, The vision was very disturbing, but he couldn't push it out of his mind. It persisted. He knew what he had to do. He had to make that vision a reality. It was his last shot at success, fame, and all that other jazz that goes along with it. He could even make it look like it was a joke. Her millions of subscribers would wonder if it was one of her wildly popular fakes or if it was real. This time, though, it wouldn't be fake. Slowly, he'd reveal to the whole world just how dead she really was. He even had a plan on how he could beat all the algorithms. First, though, before he hatched the brilliant plan, he had spells to cast, sigils and servitors to recharge. He had a hard time keeping track of what he had done in the last week. He'd started a system, but the downfall of systems is that if no one has the discipline, then the system dies. So for his system to work, it had to be simple. Otherwise, there was no possibility for success. So far, so bad. So far, in all the time he'd been a practicing magus, he'd never really seen anything as far as negative karma was concerned. In fact, what he had witnessed far more often was that the more dark and diabolical his rites, the more love and peace and happiness and success flowed into his life, especially unexpected love. There was definitely a strange accounting system in the universe. Sure, there were synchronicities at times that were a bit troubling, but who was to say if A really caused B? Who's to say if the bad decision isn't the good decision? You're never going to know the other decision that you could have made anyway. It's an impossibility. So much of our anxiety wrapped up in things that are a waste of time. These type of events also seemed to become more frequent after he started practicing his magic for others. He had spread so much light, joy, hope, and healing through his practice of the dark arts. What a paradox. How ironic. The fact that he swore himself to silence to keep himself anonymous was the icing on top. One of his master's favorite sayings had always been, "Don't be afraid to experiment, even with your experiments." Like most of his idiotic koanifal idioms, there wasn't any way to grasp the true meaning. It was just brain stimulation. Just wood to keep the fire going. Purifying oneself and the temple was something that he didn't usually feel like was worth the time. It was another limited belief, and he was trying to limit himself from those as much as possible. The concept of purity fed into the dualism that kept man bound and blind to achieving something extraordinary. That's why they stayed ordinary. He would not. He dared to have the strength to be silent in his inner knowing. It was quite a bargain to just ask for what you wanted for up front. Just to believe that you were truly inseparable from God, moment by moment becoming more godlike, with the ability to create as well as destroy. He played with the possibility of avenging his enemies, but he could never really figure out who his main enemies were. He took his revenge out a few times on friends that had pissed him off, but really just felt stupid after getting so emotional about what had originally broken his heart. Usually, it turned out just to be a misunderstanding on his part, based on some underlying irrational fear. To focus over and over again with great patience was the real key to whatever power he deceived himself into thinking that he had. It went hand in hand with when he finally figured out most people are simply just dealing with life the best that they can, while occasionally projecting their own inner insecurities out into the world. That's the way it's been forever. That's the way it will continue. So many ways to dispose a body. packed up in a porta potty, in a bunch of different pieces, in a bunch of different potties, all over the land, dreaming of an open slot machine. But yet, once it's open, nothing but total emptiness was there, left me holding my hammer and all the codes to all the mysteries. As I sat back and watched Emmanuel can't fight, Emmanuel won't.
Emptiness, aka
He made a
impotence.
mockery of the spirits in his last show. He'd taken the 72 spirits of the Goetia.
Thank you for
and changed
listening
them
to
quite a
RoadKill
bit.
Church
There was a time
by
that he
Psyche,
believed in the old
K-O,
spirits, but through the millennia, these have given
PSYKIKO.com.
birth to new types of spirits.
This episode has been
more
brought to you by
grotesque and
that
more
fly
hilarious
buzzing
than any
inside
of the
your
other
head
previous incarnations. He'd even turned some of the demons into
that tells you
mischievous
you need to go
politicians,
to
since there was really very little difference
PSYKIKO.com.
in those two breeds
Check out the art behind the
at
podcast.
their inner essence level. He had hoped his efforts would have woke more of the people. But maybe even if his expectations weren't
Episodes
met, that
without
didn't have
interruption.
didn't have
And
have
so
to
much
mean that
more.
he was a failure, because even one small ripple in the matrix might have some lasting effects over a millennia. One changed soul set upon a path of new possibilities. And even the greatest of all possibilities, the possibility of a soul's perfection, never to have to be reborn again, a purified diamond that burns through all illusion, or at least something that gets close to that level of awesomeness. But what did that mean? Did a certain religion or two's focus on eternal life really mean the ceasing of all existence for some spirits? If a soul was capable of being born, then surely it could die, in just as glorious a fashion. Then words and distinctions just kind of fade away, and the deeper you think about certain things, until you finally decide that that's not the way you want to spend whatever moments you have left in this incarnation. What incarnation are you doing in such a fucked up incarnation? It wasn't for him to figure out. His will, no, his duty was just to follow the authority of his higher self, to listen. That was beyond most understanding, but it was very freeing to finally stop questioning so much. He'd spent so much time doing the wrong things. The rest of his days were to make not questioning a priority. Just make another decision, another artistic license granted, another change here and there. Wow, ta-da. He had something out of nothing, something that even approached the miraculous. It reminded people of something the deeper part of them had almost forgotten. Why had they forgotten? Was it the pain of true responsibility? The pain of true freedom? In this world there was so much set up to keep us all from realizing that we're never as far apart from each other as we imagine. We are truly all one, just experiencing itself in different ways. The workings. Yes, his master had told him that good magic was never easy magic, but it was always worth the effort. Those who get into it for the attraction of making life more easy are usually the first to be devoured or overtaken by a distracting demon. Then they keep up the deception by not realizing the demon is something other than themselves. In other words, they never use it, whatever they first imagine outside of themselves, to change themselves. A failed integration of the id's anima platypusical, aka demon number 667, or something similar to that according to the Latin. Getting familiar with his familiars led him to making his dysfunction.
PSYKIKO.com.
Like his master warned, it was never easy. Enough of the story you say, enough of this philosophy you say.